Growing up in a narcissistic family didn't just hurt, it left you genuinely unsure of what was real, what was your fault, and who you actually were. In this video, we're talking about the experiences that created confusion and why untangling it in adulthood still feels so hard. Hi, I'm Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of people heal and get their family out of them by practicing self-differentiation, the process of becoming your true self and releasing the false self you were trained to be in your family of origin, so you can finally experience clarity, peace, and lasting freedom. Experience number 1, being punished for telling the truth in your narcissistic family. When you told the truth, especially if it exposed what was really happening at home, or contradicted your narcissistic parent's version of events, you were punished for it, criticized, shamed, given the silent treatment, disciplined. The truth wasn't welcome because the truth was a threat to the system. In healthy families, honesty is encouraged and children are praised for having the courage to speak up. In your family, you were the one who paid the price for it. In your adult life, this confusion still runs your relationships. Before you say what you actually see or feel, you calculate whether the truth will cost you something or cost you little or cost you a lot. You give others honest feedback, patience, and genuine encouragement and engagement while distracting all the self-censoring, second-guessing, and silence toward yourself. You've spent years learning to tell everyone else the truth while swallowing your own. Experience number 2, your narcissistic parents' love turned into rage without warning. One moment they were warm and present, the next they were cold, withdrawn, or raging with no clear reason why. You studied them constantly, watching their face, reading the room, trying to crack a code that had no answer. The confusion of never knowing which version of your parent you'd encounter is something no child should have to navigate. But there was no preventing the shift. The unpredictability wasn't a flaw in the system, it was the system. Even now, you brace for impact when things are going well. Peace feels suspicious. Calm feels like a setup for something bad. You give others patience and steady understanding through their emotional shifts, but you've never been able to fully relax into a relationship. Your body learned to read for the storm before it arrived. That reading is still happening, even when the room is quiet. Experience number 3. In your narcissistic family, you were told your feelings weren't real. You cried, and you were told you were being dramatic. You were hurt, and you were told you were just overreacting, maybe too sensitive. You were scared, and you were told there's nothing to be afraid of. This is gaslighting, when someone causes you to doubt your own reality, feelings, and perceptions. Over time, you stop trusting what you felt because the people who were supposed to validate it kept telling you it wasn't real. Today, that confusion shows up every time something stirs in you. You immediately question it, wondering if it's too much, if it's even worth mentioning. You give others emotional validation without hesitation. You make their feelings feel real and important because you understand better than most what it's like not to have that. What you're much slower to do is extend the same treatment to yourself. That inner voice doing the questioning was built by your narcissistic family. It has nothing to do with who you actually are. And I might mention, when I say narcissistic family, I'm not saying everyone in the family is a narcissist. You can have one narcissistic parent and you end up having a narcissistic family because the family groups itself emotionally around the narcissist. And there's all of this adjustment and adaptation with a narcissistic parent. And so I call that a narcissistic family. No different than, let's say, an alcoholic family. That doesn't mean everybody in the family is an alcoholic, but everybody in the family and an alcoholic family shifts all around and moves to encompass this alcoholism. And so that's why I call it an alcoholic family, narcissistic family. Let me talk about experience number 4. Growing up in your narcissistic family was treated as betrayal. Every time you started to become your own person, developing opinions that differed from the family's, building friendships they didn't control, making your own decisions. It was treated as a problem. Your narcissistic parent experienced your growing independence as a threat. And what made this so confusing is that this is exactly what growing up is supposed to look like. In healthy families, children are encouraged to discover who they are, develop their own voice, and step into themselves. In yours, each step towards becoming yourself was met with guilt, withdrawal, rage, or punishment. So you learned to stay small, to keep your real self hidden, to offer only the version of you that the family could tolerate. That training followed you into adulthood. You still apologize for taking up space. You second guess your preferences, minimize your opinions, and feel a quiet guilt when you choose yourself. Because becoming yourself was always the thing that got punished. You give others the room to be fully themselves, celebrating their growth, validating their choices, encouraging their independence, while quietly keeping your own back. Experience number 5. Your narcissistic family made you responsible for their emotional state. You were handed an impossible job as a child. Managing your narcissistic parents' emotions. If they were upset, it was because of you. If they were happy, you'd done something right or what they thought you should do. You became focused on them constantly scanning their face, their tone, their body language, trying to predict the next shift before it happened. This is what I call the family's emotional Wi-Fi. The unspoken emotional energy, rules, and expectations that flow between family members, keeping you locked into a signal that was never yours to carry. The confusion it created around whose feelings were whose is one of the most disorienting things your narcissistic family left inside you. That was your inheritance, emotional inheritance. Look at your relationships now. You feel responsible for how everyone around you feels. If a friend seems off, you assume you probably did something wrong. If a partner goes quiet, your mind starts working through what you might have caused. You give enormous emotional attention to the people around you, reading them, adjusting for them, soothing them. You are trained to keep your emotional radar pointed outwards at all times. The person you were never taught to point this towards yourself and become more self-focused. I might mention that in the Road to Self program I'll mention in a few minutes, it's very important. There's a whole segment on shifting from other focus to self-focus and how important that is for finding your true self and how so over-focused we have been, especially in families that have been pretty dysfunctional. Experience number 6. Your narcissistic parents said they did everything for you while you felt invisible. You heard it repeatedly. Everything I do is for you. I sacrifice everything for this family. And yet you felt completely unseen, unheard, emotionally alone in a house full of people. This is one of the most confusing things a child can be handed. Being told one thing while living through something entirely different. And that's very tough on a child's psychology, emotional life, mental life. The sacrifice they claimed was always centered on them, their effort, their pain, their martyrdom. Your actual feelings, your actual needs, your actual voice were never really part of the conversation. This changed how you understand love. You've learned that love sounds like sacrifice, but feels like a burden. That care means managing someone else's needs and not having your own met. In your relationships, you give generously and genuinely, but somewhere inside, you're still waiting to feel truly seen. Not for what you do, not for what you provide. You just want to feel seen. The validation you needed had to come from your narcissistic parent, and it didn't. Earning it from others fills nothing because what they withheld can only be reclaimed from inside you. Let me mention that again. What they withheld can only be reclaimed by you inside of you. Experience number 7. In your narcissistic family, your failures were catastrophic, but your successes were invisible. When you failed, even in ordinary small ways, it was treated as a disaster, a reflection on the family, or a reflection on that parent, something to be punished or held over you. But when you succeeded, it was either ignored, minimized, or quietly absorbed as the family's achievement. This double standard created confusion around achievement that most people never fully understand, and it followed you everywhere. You still carry this. You dismiss your accomplishments before anyone else has the chance to. You brace for criticism every time you do something well, because somewhere in your emotional system, success never felt safe. You give others genuine recognition and make a point of celebrating their wins. But when it comes to your own, you already found 10 reasons it doesn't count. Your system is still calibrated to that childhood. It helped you survive then, but it's keeping you small now. Experience number 8. Your narcissistic family made you feel responsible for the pain they caused you. When your narcissistic parent raged at you, criticized you, or treated you in ways that genuinely hurt, and you showed it, the response was often to make it your fault. If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had to react that way. You pushed me to this. You know how to make me angry. This is one of the most deeply confusing experiences in a narcissistic family. You were the one in pain, and somehow you also became the one who caused it. You absorb the blame. You start to believe that the hurt you've been feeling is evidence of something wrong with you, not evidence of something wrong with what was done to you. One of the reasons why I try to be careful in doing videos, workshops, and things such as this is that I know if my audience, many who maybe grew up in narcissistic families or certainly dysfunctional ones, if they hear me talk about how it might be difficult to absorb this, or this may be a struggle, or maybe you should try this new way of doing it, often my audience and those viewers will look inward and feel shame. And they'll also believe it must be their fault that they're having trouble with what I'm saying. And I try to be careful about that because I know that's often an immediate response. Even if someone takes a while to come around to learning self-differentiation for themselves, it can take a while to absorb that and to experience it. I do try to say, hey, it's going to take a while. It's no big deal. You're not doing it wrong. Take one step at a time. But again, if we grew up in a narcissistic home, we're supposed to be perfect. And we're not supposed to have trouble with anything. And if we do, it's because of us. That reversal still lives in your adult life. When someone hurts you, your first instinct is to figure out what you did to bring it on. You scan backwards through your own behavior, looking for where you went wrong and what you could have done differently. What part of this is yours to carry? You give others the benefit of the doubt endlessly, assuming their reactions are justified and your response is the problem. The most confusing part is that this doesn't register as self-blame. It registers as maturity, as accountability. The reversal your narcissistic family installed runs deep that taking on their blame feels like taking responsibility for your own. Experience number 9. The rules in your narcissistic family changed without warning. What was acceptable yesterday was punishable today. What earned approval last week brought criticism this week. You were always at risk of getting it wrong because the standard kept shifting to serve your narcissistic parent's mood, not your need for stability. You couldn't learn the rules because there weren't any real ones. That confusion wasn't accidental. There was only the unpredictability of a system that was never designed to make sense to you. So now, as an adult, you over-explain, you over-prepare, you anticipate worst-case scenarios and situations that haven't even unfolded yet. You give others the most generous and charitable readings of every situation, but you hold yourself to a standard of constant readiness, if not constant criticism. What looks like thoroughness or conscientiousness from the outside is often your emotional system running a childhood calculation. If I prepare for every possible outcome, maybe this time the rules won't change. If you're ready to finally break free and start living with clarity, peace, and a grounded connection to your true self, then join the Road to Self program. Many who have joined say it was the missing piece in their healing journey, the step that finally helped them get the family out of them and stand strong as their true self. I spent 45 years preparing that program. If you're not sure if the Road to Self program is for you, then start with my free 84-minute self-differentiation training. Over 30,000 people have joined the free training as their first step. Click the links in the description to get started. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss a new video. I do want to thank you for watching. Have a great day and be wise.